Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Randy with Tech Rescue here for your weekly cybersecurity tip. And today I want to talk to you about fishing. So, a lot of us love fishing, but that's outdoors and that's with a boat and a rod and reel. And that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about PH fishing, which is when cyber criminals try to reach out to organizations, people, random. They try to reach out to people to get credentials or also maybe to download a payload on their computer or something horrible like that. And phishing is a huge, huge problem right now. In fact, they say over 90% of all malware attacks, so that would include like ransomware, compromises, breaches, that they are initially delivered via email. So it is a huge problem right now, and it's something that we really need to deal with. And one of the reasons why it's such a big deal, on top of the fact that that's how a lot of attacks are delivered, is that the statistics say almost 2/3 of all businesses that are attacked with a ransomware or a major breach like this will go out of business within 6 months. And that is a really big deal to me. I'm super passionate about businesses, and the thought of them going out of business because of attack just is so heartbreaking. And so what I want to do with this tip today is maybe give you a little bit of information that can help prevent that and help you stay a little bit safer. So I want to start off real quick with how can you spot a phishing email? So 5 years ago, I would have said, look for the misspellings. There's misspellings or maybe phrases that nobody uses, like a good afternoon, gentle people, or whatever. 5 years ago, you could spot a phishing email pretty quickly because of the misspellings. In fact, we've had jokes over the years that if these criminals ever learn how to spell, we're going to be in big trouble. Well, the reality is they have learned how to spell, and so now you can still watch for misspellings, but it's less likely to be something that you're going to notice. But a couple of things. One is look at the email and see if you recognize the sender. A couple of things you can do. One, it might just be blatant, you don't recognize the sender, but also up at the top of your email where the email address is, usually there's a little button you can click on, or you can hover your mouse and you can see where the actual email is coming from. So if it acts like it's coming from, say, UPS, and you hover over and it's like a Gmail address, well, then you know that it's not really a sender that you know. And so watch for senders that you know or don't know, because if you don't know them, it could be dangerous. But then also you can hover over the links in the email. So just take your mouse and put it over the link and be patient. And in like a half a second or a couple of seconds, depending on the speed of your system, the actual link will pop up. Once again, if it says that it's from UPS and you hover over the link, and then the link, it pops up and it's like, something XYZZZZ, UPS.com or something like that, then it's a pretty good chance that it could be a malicious email. So it's getting harder and harder to spot them these days. But right there are two ways. You don't know the sender, and the links in them are bad. Sometimes you'll have to open up a tab on your browser and actually go and look and see if the domain is really related to something that they're talking about in the email. I just got one a couple of days ago, and the domain looked not suspicious. But anyway, I went and looked it up, and sure enough, it was bad. So like the .com part at the end is what I looked up, and it was bad. So I knew it was a malicious email. So those are a couple of ways. And you really need to be thinking about, can you spot them? And then also, can your teammates at work spot them? Because something that I always say is it just takes one well-meaning employee to bring down the whole organization by clicking on a phishing email. So you have to be very careful. So it's not like, the team is running around thinking, oh, how can we bring down our company? Well-meaning people click on these, and that can open up the company to an attack. And the thing is, it's not like they're going to click on the email and then sirens are going to go off and the screen's going to start flashing and it says, you've been breached and now send us a bunch of money. Usually the click starts with they take their credentials or they load something on the computer, and then that starts a process. It could be a 3-month or a 6-month process of the criminals basically going in and finding more information about you, more information about your company, gathering basically a profile of you and your company. And then when they feel like they have enough information that you can't withstand the attack and they can almost for sure pull it off, then they will do all the things that let you know that they're there. So it's a pretty scary process, and it's pretty scary if they've gotten that far that they're able to pull off the attack. So I wanted to end with, what are some things that you can do to prevent this kind of thing from happening? The first thing that comes to mind, and I know I might get some pushback from some people, but it's okay, is in 2021, February 2021, you need to get off of self-hosted email. Like maybe your web server has email, and you can go in and set up your own boxes and this and that. I'm really not a fan of that, although I used to be 5 years ago, because these attacks are getting so sophisticated. You need a little more help. We encourage all of our customers to go either to like a Microsoft 365 product or a Google G Suite workspaces, whatever they're calling it this year. It's workspaces right now, but go into either a Microsoft or a Google email account, because those will have more built-in features to help prevent these kind of emails and help you be more aware of them. Another thing to do is to prevent these. Maybe you can't prevent it coming in, but if it does come in, and heaven forbid you click on it, is always use a password keeper. Because if they're trying to get you to click to like a fake Microsoft and enter in your Microsoft credentials, when you go to that page, if you do, heaven forbid you do, but if you do, and you go to that page, your password keeper is not going to have a password for fake Microsoft.com or Microsoft with a zero, .com or something like that. Your password keeper can help prevent you from going to a site like that. I would also encourage that you get some sort of anti-malware, anti-phishing plugin for your browser. We use the one that comes with Bitdefender, and that will also, if you click on a link, and heaven forbid you do, don't do it, but if you accidentally do, it will stop you when it pops up. So another thing you can do is purchase an anti-spam or an anti-phishing service that's kind of like an add-on to your email. Usually those are paid. So let's just back up here a little bit. So like G Suite comes with that, but that's G Suite handling everything. And I like to approach cybersecurity from a multi-layered approach. So yeah, let's keep G Suite and let G Suite do their thing, but then let's also purchase a service that goes on top of that to also help find the spam emails and also the phishing emails. So then the final thing I would recommend would be training for your company, because if you can raise awareness, you can prevent a ton of attacks, because people are the weakest link when it comes to cyber attacks, because they're likely more than anything to click on an email. Most of these attacks are able to avoid, like Bitdefender and things like that because they're very sophisticated, and the weakest link ends up becoming the employees of the organization. And so one of the first things that we roll out when we hire on a new cybersecurity client is we start the training for the employees. We want to get the employees to a place where they can just look at their box and they know right away, hey, that's a bad email and I'm not going to click on it. And you can prevent a ton of stuff. And that's probably the best way to prevent these is get your people trained. Okay, so before I wrap it up, we do have a question. Do you have any advice to spot targeted spear phishing emails? So a spear phishing email, that's a great question, by the way, Stephen. A spear phishing email is an email that is targeted for a specific business, organization, or even a person. We see these a lot where, so let's say like there's two people that use each other as vendors, like maybe a construction company and a lumber company. The lumber company gets hacked and they go in and they look at the contacts, then they send an email over to the construction company asking for, a $50,000 draw to be wired to them to pay for this latest shipment. And they already know, because it's a spear phishing, it's a targeted, it's focused. They already know that these kind of emails go back and forth all day long. And then they try to get that. We've actually seen that happen before, but there were precautions in place that prevented the money from being transferred. So what can you do to spot those? It really goes back to training, because you can train your employees to hover over the links instead of click. You can train your employees to look at who it's from. If we do business with abcconstruction.com and we get an email from abcconstruction.com, but it has a 0 instead of an O, then, if we're hovering over it and we're looking at it and we're being suspicious, that's another way to help. Also, we use a service called Iron Scales, which will actually flag an email like that. And that will help raise awareness, where the employee can ask the question, is this really somebody that seems to know me, but is this really somebody that I know? So those are really probably the trickiest type of phishing emails. So that's a great question, but it really boils down to training, having software in place, and doing your due diligence to make sure that things like this don't happen. Well, y'all, that's all I have for today's cybersecurity tip. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be doing these on most Tuesdays at noon. And then also I'll be doing them from time to time randomly during the week as things pop up. But once again, thanks for tuning in. And if you guys know somebody or a business that's dealing with somebody like this, with something like this, or if they would like more help on something like this, be sure to send them my way, and we can get them the information and the help that they need. So once again, thanks for tuning in, and y'all have a great rest of your day.